So I'm going to jump right in. Nomadic. It's something I use to describe myself rather proudly. It's an experience, it's a lifestyle, and it's one that I've encouraged a lot of other people to enjoy. The nomadic lifestyle isn't for everyone, but I'm going to pretend as if all of us here are considering it, and we are really excited. Okay? I'd also like to preface my conversation that every place I've lived or been to or visited, I've loved. People frequently ask me, what's your favorite place? Where do you think you'll end up? And I cannot answer that question. I genuinely love every place I've been, and that's kind of why I keep doing it, because why not like another place, right? So in that same concept, I do have a little playful banter with a friend of mine, and whenever we kind of have conversations about different cities, kind of say something like, I currently live in Chicago, like Chi-Town, what? Or Cali, what? So I'm going to ask you to kind of practice the same thing with me. It's kind of a playful, positive way to encourage you to visit all the cool places I'm about to talk to you about. So let's practice right now with Asheville. So Asheville what?
Asheville what?
Awesome. All right, so here we go. My story actually starts where a few years ago, it was February 2010, so it hasn't been that long, and I was living in New Jersey.
New Jersey what?
Jersey what? Thank you. I grew up in New Jersey, and I ended up back there after a few years of bouncing from different places for a job. I was a public school teacher. I loved it. I kind of fell into it. It was pretty seamless. Went to school, went right into a job. It was fun. I was challenged and encouraged. But in February of 2010, I was told that in June, I'd be laid off. So for months, I went to work, and everyone shared their advice. All these opinions of new schools I should try out, or charters, or private sector, and I just wasn't convinced. It didn't sell me, okay? I had done the teaching thing. Maybe this is an opportunity for me. And I didn't know what that opportunity meant. I really had no clue, to the point where I literally attended grad school for one day. I enrolled, I showed up to class, I had a great time, I got on the train, and I was like, yeah, this isn't happening. Because you know what? I just left teaching, and I went to school for that, and who's to say I'm not going to do the same thing for this degree I was going for? So I just wasn't sure which way I was going to turn, but I knew teaching wasn't the answer for me at this point. So there was my golden gates of opportunity. That's how I look at it, okay? But I had no clue which way to go. Well, grad school, blah. I had a little something else going on in my life, right? As we all do at that age where we're in relationships and whatnot. I had this new relationship, and my partner had just moved to an island off the coast of Georgia. And he invited me down. He was like, come visit, relax, take a load off. So I decided, okay, I'm going to take a quick little trip down to something called Jekyll Island. Jekyll Island what?
Jekyll Island.
All right. You might not know Jekyll Island. It is literally 7 miles tip to tip, no lie. When I lived there, there was no gas station on the island. Apparently there is one now. And when I lived there, the grocery store was in a trailer next to like a trailer that was also a dry cleaner. So it was really tiny, okay? I spent most of my day volunteering at a local public library. I was pretty kind of shy and quiet, still to myself, and I wasn't really interacting with a lot of people. So I thought, okay, if I go to the library, put some books away, listen to music, I'll be good. I also had a little dog at the time. He kind of hung out with me. I was painting a lot. I was making jewelry. I was selling my work online. And we just had this tiny little hotel room. I mean, literally, for his job, we ended up living in this hotel room. And there's no kitchen. None. I had a microwave and a mini fridge. And I got really good at microwave meals, okay? So, college students, listen up. I have an awesome tip for you. The microwave can be your friend if you're smart about it. You don't have to gain like 50 pounds on frozen dinners, okay? You can try those awesome bags of rice that are microwavable, right? Any kind of citrus, my favorite is lime. Ooh, excuse me. And I used to put like leftovers. If we went to a restaurant or something and save the leftovers, include that with the lime and rice, and then I had a dinner that was relatively healthy. So you can do a lot of different things with this. It's a quick, simple tool. College students, I understand, it's fast. And even if you're not in college, whatever, do it, okay? All right, so as I had said, I was a little shy. I wasn't really interacting with people. This is a tiny island, right? It's small. So there aren't a whole lot of people to interact with. I did, however, have a bar at this hotel. Yeah, and I'm not saying I was a slush and drinking the whole time, but I did do something that worked in my favor. It taught me a lot of skills. I ended up taking a lot of games with me down to the bar. And I'd have Yahtzee or, let's say, a card game, and I'd invite people to interact with me. I'd play with bartender, I would talk to friendly couples, whatever it was. I was going to invite people to interact with me, get to know them, ask them questions, and just have a good time. Because it can get really lonely being nomadic. You have to have a different type of mindset, all right? So encourage people to interact. All right, so we're on Jekyll Island. Jekyll Island what?
Jekyll Island what?
Nice. All right, and he was done. He was done his job there. It had finished. And we ended up moving to a suburb of Atlanta. So all of a sudden, I have way more people to interact with, but we're not there very long. Maybe 2 weeks, and it's pretty obvious this relationship is done. So I'm thinking, okay, now I'm in Georgia. I'm in a whole new place. I just spent all this time getting to know the people on the island. I don't know these people here in Atlanta. What am I going to do? But I did have one conversation that changed everything. Someone told me how they ended up in Atlanta. They didn't know anyone, and it was this whole big trial and tribulation. But she encouraged me to consider moving somewhere else, that the whole world is my oyster. I could go anywhere. So I wrote a list. Every place I ever thought of living. It didn't matter if in that moment it made sense. Just at some point in my life, if I thought about it, it was going on the list. As I was looking at that list, I noticed there were 2 cities that were relatively close to one another. And after a little bit of research, I figured out that one was significantly cheaper than the other. So this had my attention. I also made another list, and it was things that I wanted in my personal life. Things such as I wanted to live in a city where I could stand downtown and see a mountain. I wanted vegetarian food to be pretty commonplace, hardcore vegetarian. And I just wanted to be able to go outside, enjoy nature, hiking, but still have that city feel. So I realized this was it. My golden gates were open, and I knew what I was doing. I was going to walk through and move to Portland, Oregon. I've never been to the West Coast. It didn't matter. I was going. All right, I'm freshly single and down in Atlanta still, kind of waiting to figure out how I'm going to get to Portland. And I had a genius idea, and I encourage you to try this. I decided online dating was going to be my answer. I was going to ask people who lived in Portland what it's like. Tell me about your experiences. What do you love about Portland? It was great. Be safe, be careful, don't be creepy about it. But you can totally learn a lot about a city from online dating. So, I will say this. I finished my time in Atlanta. I decided I need to go back up to New Jersey and get my things. In the meantime, I took a summer job. Best summer job ever. It happened to be in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, not far from here. Chapel Hill what?
Jekyll Island what?
Nice. Awesome job. Loved it. Had a great summer. Went back to New Jersey and loaded my car. I filled my Corolla as much as I could. Whatever didn't fit didn't come, end of story. story. That was it. And my first stop was Chicago. So I went from New Jersey to Chicago, got a little bit lost outside of Pittsburgh, can't really explain what happened there. Made it to Chicago after 15 and a half hours of driving by myself. So, boom, in Chicago, did a little sightseeing because the next day I only had a 4-hour drive. I decided to go to St. Louis. Can't tell you why I went there, I don't know. It's obviously not the straight line, I just wanted to go to St. Louis. So, on my way down to St. Louis, I stopped by, saw the world's largest bottle of ketchup, obviously a great attraction, and did a little bit of sightseeing, didn't stay long. Mainly because I had booked this hotel, this brings me to my next tip, without looking at the street view. And it was in a neighborhood I wasn't chill leaving the filled Corolla. So I kind of left St. Louis in a hurry. So my next tip for you, please explore before you book, okay? Street view, check out the neighborhood, make sure it's safe and you are comfortable with where you're staying. All right, this next day is huge. I was driving, and if you've ever driven down 95 going southbound, you notice those billboards for a place, and it keeps coming up and up and up, and it tells you go south of the border. And you're like, geez, all right, fine, I'll go. Well, that kind of happened to me. So I ended up visiting these caves. I'm like, whatever, no big deal. Like, I'll just visit these. And then as I'm driving there, I realized, oh, I'm right near the world's largest rocking chair. Of course I have to see that. So I stopped there. I've wasted hours at this point driving. But whatever, I'm having a great time until this happened. Literally a storm, and if you've been in the Midwest for a storm, they go crazy. Storms are super low, they're really loud, and they're intense. Everyone was pulled over. I was not happy. It was August, tornado season. And then that passes, I continued to drive, and the Mississippi had flooded the highway I was on. This is a farm underwater. It's actually very sad. It was really out of nowhere. There were no signs warning me this was going to happen. And this brings me to my next tip. On-call navigator. I was pinching pennies back then, had the equivalent of a flip phone. And so I needed to call somebody who wasn't working, good at giving directions, and a little bit tech savvy, at least could figure out maps. So on-call navigator, find one if you are traveling by car by yourself. All right, so I ended up in Lincoln, Nebraska. It took me a little while. It was 13 and a half hours, so I was a little tired. But the next couple days were pretty easy. I did some sightseeing, right? I saw random weird things again. That's car hinge up top. That's awesome. Very strange stuff. And I made it to Salt Lake City where I had a day of rest. A day of rest was great, but I realized my back had really been hurting. So my next tip for you is to pamper yourself. Book a massage. Book the only thing you're going to do the day after a long trip like this. Book a massage. It's the best thing I do now. Because you're going to need it. Your back will hurt, especially if you're driving alone. You're going to be holding the wheel. So take care of yourself. And then I had one last thing. I was in Portland. It was exciting. Finally there. Woohoo! And oh yeah, that's what we talk about. The next little tip I have for you is hostels. I stayed in several hostels in the Portland area until I figured out what I was doing, where I was going to live, so on. Hostels are great. But Portland didn't last long for me. I was there for a few months and I was like, yeah, let's do it again. And I've kind of been hopping around since. But I'm not going to bore you with all my trips. This trip was pivotal. It changed my life. When I'm on the road, when I'm exploring new cities, I'm alive and I'm excited and I'm happy. And that's not to say that it's for everyone, but for me, it really is perfection. So I'm going to actually skip ahead for a little bit low on time and point out the purple we have here. The purple represents my 2012. The year 2012, just to give you, that I'm legit, they're New Jersey. Oh, and when I say spare room, some of them I rented rooms, some were like friends, or some are actually just a couch, okay? So in 2012, I stayed in one spare room in New Jersey. In Pennsylvania, 2 spare rooms. Georgia, 1 hotel, 2 spare rooms. Oregon, 1 apartment and 4 spare rooms. California, 2 dorms, 5 spare rooms, 1 hostel and 1 hotel. Utah, 2 hotels. Nebraska, 1 hotel, and Illinois, 1 apartment. So that's 2012. Thank you for making this another stop for me here at Asheville. Asheville, what?